Well, what's the crack? Blu Hydrangea here, back with another YouTube video.
Baby, join the queue. We got room for you.
Reporting to you live from the end of the orange bracket on RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 11. So y'all loved the video from last week, so I thought, let me come back and review the orange bracket as a whole. We got 3 full episodes of Mystique Summers Madison. And I am ready to discuss everything that happened. Okay, so let's get to the entrances. I'm gonna pick my favorites and the ones that didn't hit. Of course, Morphine's, I loved her entrance look because she always gets described as the ladybug from Bug's Life. I thought it's very elevated. She did a ladybug look at the drag con where the car hit her. This blows that look out of the water. She looks insane, she looks incredible, rhinestoned, her face looks gorgeous. Morphine sometimes does that thing where she like rushes her makeup and it doesn't look so polished, but this looks like a mug that she has taken her time with. I also love Dawn's entrance look. I thought she looked just like a nymph. No one else competes with that kind of drag because it is its own being. And I also liked Morgan McMichael's. It reminded me of something Vivian would wear, so maybe that's why I liked it. And it was just so Morgan, like, you know, she felt like a business bitch wearing that. Also, special shout out to Akira, who looked fantastic and gorgeous and did the hanging circles around her body that Gaga just did in the Runway music video. And some guy was all like, oh, I engineered this and it took me days. And I was like, well, guess what, bitch? Drag queens are doing the exact same thing. And Akira is clearly a genius when it comes to sewing and designing. I didn't like Lucky Star's boots for her entrance. And Mystique Summers, she looked like she would wear that to like a nice evening dinner. So that's my opinions on the entrance looks. Is there anyone I even missed? Okay, so the dynamic in the workroom, it's a little bit different than I anticipated actually. Morgan and Akira, they work together a lot. Apparently Akira stays in Morgan's house. I kind of love this dynamic because it's like the older, more seasoned queens who are incredibly talented and polished coming together, and they're like a force to be reckoned with. If I saw those two talking in the corner, it's very much giving like me in season 1 seeing Baga and Vivian kind of, you know, be joined at the hip. That is like a bond that I would want to break up. Morphine kind of had like a few different things going on, and so did Dawn, and so did Lucky. The 3 of them were all kind of trying to play each other, and I love that Morphine just feels like this is her season. Everything good is gonna happen for me because I'm gonna make it work. I am that bitch from Miami. I am that bitch from season 16, and I'm gonna get all these points from these queens. Well, and Mystique is there, kind of giving like this nice old lady vibe, buttering up Lucky. We learned that the first challenge is a rap kind of, I think that what they call it, the Rugaloo. If I got a beat like that, I would be that one queen that's like, hey, I'm pretty good at writing lyrics. I've written a good few lyrics. I've been in the recording booth with RuPaul, so who knows? And we get to the challenge. Some standouts for me. I did like what Morphine was wearing, contrary to what other people were saying. I kind of saw the like Snow White once Michelle said it, but if she didn't say that, I would never have kind of clocked that. Morphine also put together the choreography, which there was a lot of drama with. Morgan wanted everyone to add something, which I do have an opinion on. All of these queens should be able to choreograph something, because if you were on that stage on your own and had to represent yourself, you should have some choreo that you're able to rely on. So I do believe that Morgan was in the right for calling these queens out for not wanting to participate. So I loved Morphine's verse. I thought she was, it was like the right amount of camp and funny and also fierce. Morgan cartwheeled into her verse, which I loved. And I thought her verse was very cute. I thought her hair was fucked up. Morgan from the nose down looks okay. Like she has those big glossy drag lips. It's like it's like she really covers her eyebrows so they stick out really far, and then she doesn't really do anything to like conceal them. So it's almost like she's putting eyeshadow onto like the crust of a bread. I also loved Dawn's. I loved her verse, and I liked her outfit was kind of a bit more her. Lucky was in flats. Mystique didn't know a single word. She was literally covering her mouth. I also didn't like the words of it. I did love, what was the lyric? It was something like, now I lost weight, now I levitate. Akira, She was okay. She had flats on as well. Bizarre choice. Even in her lyrics, she said she puts her heels on and she was wearing flat wedges. If we're going solely by the verse, my top 2 verses are Morphine and Morgan. In all these kind of write your own verse challenges, we normally see the queens record their songs. It just kind of felt like a big part missing from the challenge for me. Did they write this at Drag Race? Did they know about this prior? I heard that there's rumors about that they got told, write a little song verse to an R&B track. And it's funny because the next bracket, we see them record from the little preview that was seen, we saw them record. So I'm wondering why that wasn't shown this time. I think it's more fun if you just have to do it on the spot. We really see who succeeds and who doesn't. And it actually came out that Megami from a few seasons ago, you know, Protect Queer Art, she wrote Dawn's verse. Sorry, Megami edited the verse. Apologies, I've been fed wrong information. And this kind of leads into a problem that I've felt with this season so far. It feels like the queens being told prior to arriving that this is going to be the challenge, etc, etc, that they're maybe a little bit too in the know of what's coming. They're a bit chill, you know, they don't have these challenges sprung upon them, so they're not as stressed or in like a competition mode, like everything's sat out in front of them, they just need to literally do it, which to me isn't really what my favorite parts of Drag Race are. My favorite parts of Drag Race are when people are flailing and, you know, falling apart and stressing out. I also heard that they had their phones on set and that they didn't have to like sequester like they normally do. I've been at Drag Race and I know what that feels like, to stress about upcoming challenges and not knowing what's coming and just taking every week as it comes and seeing how you do. And I just don't feel like I'm getting that this season. I imagine it's the Drag Race overlords thinking this needs to be a good season, we need these queens prepared, but it kind of takes away the element of competition, in my opinion, and reality, and this is a reality competition show. Okay, so on to the runways. Dawn, first of all, spectacular, was my favourite on the runway, and that therefore deserved her spot in the top 2 that week. It was like she brought the LaToya look to life through Dawn's lens. I also loved Morgan's look as well. She looked like Cher meets Michael Jackson in the face. She filled the stage with her presence, which I love. Mystique, the colour of the dress wasn't the same colour as LaToya's, and she had these like black mesh tights. It's almost like my tights don't match my skin, so I'm just gonna put a black like tight over it so that it just completely doesn't match my skin. Does that make sense? I feel like that's what she was doing, because people online have been saying that she was trying to match her tights to her arms, but I don't think she was. I think she was wearing like a lacy pair of tights to like add an extra element, or maybe that's like her comfort zone, like she just does that at the gigs. And also Lucky in the makeup like chair was adding all of this white foundation. That's literally all they showed. She was adding this white concealer. Mystique was fixing her eyebrows, she was adding this white concealer. She'd done her full face, she was adding this white concealer. She kept saying, I just want my makeup to look good. And then she got on stage and she was white as a ghost. Speaking of Michael Jackson, jeez Louise. Bob, the drag queen, said it right, that Lucky should have looked at this look through her own lens. Kind of like Dawn did, but maybe even bigger. The top 2 of the week were Morgan and Dawn. I completely see it. Morphine commanded a lot more of the episode because she had done the choreography, and she also was talking about, you know, the alliances and all of this kind of stuff. So it felt like a very Morphine episode, and it was weird that she wasn't in the top 2. We are back in the workroom and the points are being divvied out. So the lip sync is Morgan versus Dawn to a LaToya Jackson song. I don't know the song. I didn't even know LaToya Jackson had songs. I did love LaToya as a judge. She was just giggling away and she kept on returning everyone's kisses to them, which I thought was very sweet. And it was her birthday! This is like my favourite kind of Drag Race judge. You know, it's like someone that's only famous in the gay world. It's not some guy, straight guy, who just happened to win an Oscar or an Emmy or something that year. This is like LaToya Jackson, and she's having the LaToya Jackson resurgence currently. I'm seeing her all over my TikTok. Dawn was absolutely demolished. Morgan ate her up. So Morgan wins the 3 points and Dawn has 2. On to the next episode. So we get back to the workroom and it's time to divvy out the points. Mystique does this whole thing where she stands up and she gives Lucky her points and she tells her how amazing she is, and she sees a young Mystique in her. Lucky gives her a point to Mystique, which is, I think, you know, Mystique is kind of playing the game here. She's got Lucky in the palm of her hands at this point. Morphine and A'keria then share points. So everyone's kind of even Stevens. Is still early games. No, not very much competitive playing yet. Morphine deserved a few more points because the way the points were given out in the next episode, it was very heavy to who helped who in the challenge, and clearly Morphine did a lot of heavy lifting with the choreo in that challenge, and I think deserves some more points. Rue walks in and there's a mini challenge. They have to pull up their underwear without using their hands, which I've never seen anyone do. Who is double jointed enough? All these girls have BBLs. This challenge kind of encapsulates the whole vibe that I am saying this bracket had, and there's like no competitive energy. These challenges are being thrown at them and everyone knows how it's going to turn out. Everyone backstage knew that this was not possible. The queens probably knew it was not possible, but they're kind of like, you know, haha, let's have some fun with this, which is exactly what this competition has felt like so far. No one won. And then they had to go down the line and give out their bars because they're doing a sewing challenge. My favorite part of this was Morphine saying to Dawn, I want the piano bar. And then Dawn going, I'll have the piano bar, please. Out of the things that were left on the table, I would have done exactly the same thing as Dawn. With Dawn's vibe in the workroom, I can tell that she is not here to make friends. It's just given like bitchy twink to me. And I do love Dawn. I think maybe it's just like that Nene Coco kind of time and place, like doesn't quite know how to express these feelings in a way that is lighthearted. It just feels like she's being catty. The one I would have wanted, probably piano bar or something that was just fabric, even white party, although I don't think white really does very much for me because I'm already Casper the Friendly Ghost, so I probably would have went for piano bar. A'keria was truly playing the Drag Race production game. She was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I have my own dress form and I make all these incredible outfits, but I don't know what I'm doing. I know if I make this episode about me not being able to do something and then come out and do it, it will look even more impressive. Dawn also had her own dress form. She was making like this huge, it reminded me of a look Bones did for her Met Gala look. With all, it had all like swords and stuff in it, and as she was making it, I kind of thought it would look prettier if it was like a big ruffle around her face rather than like flat to her head. But we all saw in the end that it turned out well. We also saw Lucky kind of get creative in the workroom and take on everyone's advice about just doing her. On to the runways. My favorite runways were probably A'keria, although I didn't like the length of her hair. I think that thing could have been way shorter and just like been a real long fierce ponytail. And Dawn's, of course. Dawn's looked spectacular. I wasn't like blown away by the thing on her head. I think it just was like an interesting part of a cool outfit. There was no crazy flops. Mystique, she looked like a woman on a hen do. I actually didn't mind Morphine's. I mean, the actual catsuit was very cute. I love a bell sleeve and a bell bottom pant. I liked the idea of Lucky's look. I loved how big it was and that it looked just like her drag that she brings. I just did not like the face. It was to match the zebra print in her fabric. I think the whole look was so cutesy. Her face should have been cutesy and not like reptilian or tiger-like, whatever she was doing. So the winners were rightfully A'keria and Dawn. I think they just did the best job. The lip sync, Fergalicious Death, which if I was Dawn, I'd just be like, this is going to be the body lip sync all over again, especially against A'keria, who is known to shake her ass. Dawn did give it a good go. A'keria definitely won, and she got the 3 points, which put A'keria in the lead, which is just proof that like anything can happen between episodes. And that obviously also meant that Dawn has won a second challenge, which good for Dawn. On to the third episode. Morgan and Mystique give their points to A'keria because they obviously got a lot of help from A'keria in the sewing challenge. Lucky and Morphine share their points. The week before, Lucky didn't really go with Morphine's alliance that she was cooking up, and then this week she kind of did. So I was like, Lucky, you're not very good at playing this game. Morgan was not being strategic either. Like, it was very respectable for her to give her point to A'keria. There's something about Morgan, she just doesn't want to play the game. It's almost like she wants to hold herself back from making decisions that are going to benefit her. Later on in this episode, in the Untucked, she actually says, I'm not going to beg for people's points. I'm like, Morgan, you've worked so hard. You've won 2 challenges. Beg for some points, bitch. On to this challenge. They're being spooky QVC salespeople on the TV. Weird challenge. Who the frick thought of this? These roles were given to them. They all happened to have a look that was, you know, for their role. I'm pretty sure Akira didn't have a Nefertiti look at hand. I'm sure Morphine didn't have a freaking zombie look. So again, it's like, were you in the know about this challenge prior to it happening? Were you able to prepare maybe looks? Maybe even more? Am I being a Drag Race conspiracy theorist right now? There's not much to say. They're kind of handed out the rules. Mystique and Lucky were giving great TV. Mystique was like, I'm being serious. Mystique works for a makeup company. She apparently does those big conferences and, you know, gives talks to as a brand ambassador. So she was actually thinking with her marketing mind that this was a serious QVC challenge. Is that not what the problem was with her on the country challenge too? She was like, I need to give reality. I need to give the realistic country woman. This is a challenge where you get to be goofy and silly. Morphine and Dawn getting on very well. Akira and Morgan also getting along very well. You know what I love about Morgan's mind? She has so many references to pull from, and you can really see that with her drag, especially if you've seen her live. So I love that Morgan was able to use all of that for this QVC challenge. It was just good to see Morgan in her element. We get to the challenge. It was a fucking weird challenge. It was really boring, yeah. The idea of selling something in drag is a great idea because that is exactly what you kind of have to do once you're off the show. This felt like a challenge that they got and did in one day, with very little time in between receiving the challenge and doing it. Morphine and Dawn were first. I thought Dawn held her own. I don't think any of it was particularly special. There wasn't very many jokes. She did look so cute though. Morphine made me laugh more. You know, she had the bit with the pulling off the lip. She had the pulling off of the wig, which I thought all of that was like at least a bit more thought out than what Dawn had been doing, which was kind of just saying cute things. Dawn was more like vocal, but didn't have very much content, whereas I feel like Morphine had a lot of physical humor, which was more thought out, in my opinion. Next up was Mystique and Lucky Stars. Lucky Stars was like on the stage, she was trying to tell me that this was her vampire look. Was she or was she not? Like what do you call them? Like a sanitary pad? Was she not? It wasn't a vampire. Yeah, Christina Ricci even said if you just did like a plain Dracula look, there's so much more funny about that. Even Cuckoo last season, she did like a terrible Dracula, but visually it made me laugh. Lucky was a freaking hot mess. She didn't know what kosher was. She was barely doing the job. She literally could have walked on set and went, here's this thing that I'm selling. I'm a vampire. Over to you, Mystique. But she kept on doing that thing where she was like, oh yeah, I forgot to do that, so I'm gonna butt into whatever Mystique's doing and, you know, go back to my product, which Mystique was not having. Mystique was showing, you know, bitch, I'm from Chicago. That was the best part of the whole challenge. If that didn't happen, this would have been one of the worst episodes of Drag Race in recent history. She said in the workroom, I want to be really prepared, and Lucky was like, I hate that she's trying to prepare what I'm doing. And then Lucky came in, didn't have a fucking clue what she was doing, and Mystique knew exactly all the points she wanted to hit. I actually think Mystique was probably top 3 of this challenge, maybe even top 2. Being mad at Lucky helped her with that too, because as RuPaul said, it was entertaining. And then we had the final group. Morgan really held her own. She also looked stunning. Again, it felt very referential. She looked kind of like something from Death Becomes Her, and she was a ghost, which makes sense because they were dead. She kind of also hosted the whole thing. If Akira felt lost or they needed to come back to something, Morgan like brought them back on track. Akira made me laugh a lot, especially wrapping herself around the man. I did notice actually, as RuPaul said, that she wasn't looking at the camera, she was presenting to Morgan. That's deflecting from you onto someone else. You know, you're like, don't look at me, I'm gonna talk to you, this is my comfort zone. And then on the runway, it was France. Morphine's look was spectacular. The prosthetic looked really gorgeous. It was phenomenal. That was the best Morphine's looked on this season. Lucky was a very impactful look. Her drag always has something interesting and fun and a cool perspective, but it's always the same. It's a big headpiece and something at the hips that's maybe asymmetrical. I do love that we got to see a bit more of her personality. She truly was herself this season, which was enjoyable to watch. Mystique Summers on this fucking runway with this perfume bottle and this beaded gown. It had a dress underneath the dress to hide her like padding and tits and stuff, but that only went to her knee, and then the rest of it was like one piece of sheer fabric. Her makeup did look stunning though, I will give her that. She is painted for the back row, and it's not everyone's type of drag, but she did look gorgeous. If Mystique had a spectacular look, I could have seen her in the top 2. And I like Dawn's rat too. I loved Akira's look as well. I thought that the skirt was really well done. It was so smart. The way all those bananas fell. I think everyone looked good on this runway apart from Mystique. Dawn and Morgan won the challenge. I didn't think that the challenge should be won as a pair, if I'm honest, because when it comes to the brackets, there's so little time to secure a win that them handing out wins to groups just doesn't seem fair to me. But I do think that Akira and Morgan were the best at the challenge. Maybe Mystique as well, but her runway was really weak. So the lip sync happens. It's to Zombie Boy, one of my favorite Mayhem tracks. I thought Morgan held back a little bit, but I'm wondering if that's because she thought Dawn wasn't gonna out lip sync her. The moment Dawn said at the start of the lip sync, I've never won a lip sync on Drag Race before, and I'm here to make that change or something like that, I was like, they're gonna give it to her, aren't they? Not everything needs a redemption story. Especially not Dawn's freaking lip syncs. Because guess what's gonna happen? She's gonna progress, then we're gonna do the lip sync Lollapalooza, and Dawn's gonna be out in the first round. We get to the, you know, the big spooky part of the episode where everyone has to give out their points. So Dawn is a definite through. I actually thought that Mystique was gonna throw her point and give it to someone who it didn't matter to as much. So I actually, whenever it got to Mystique, I thought, oh, Morgan's through. Mystique's gonna play some stupid weird game and say that she was like a mastermind. But she didn't. She gave her a point to Akira, which left us with a tie. How anticlimactic was that tie? It should have been left up to chance. Maybe it should have been like all the girls had to vote for who they wanted to see go through, and then the whole bracket would have decided, you know, unanimously. Also, how has Morgan won 2 challenges and is still not worthy enough to go through? Although I do love Akira's drag. This is what makes the 2 people continuing from each bracket a little bit of a flaw for me personally, because that 3rd spot was easier to achieve than, you know, the 1st or the 2nd. So we're seeing people who did well across the bracket still not making it through to the next part of the competition. We're seeing Morgan, who won 2 challenges, go home. So what are we watching these episodes for, you know? Anyway, I'm not a big fan of it. And then they do this thing with the wild card where the judges pick a person at random from the bracket. At least the 3rd place in the bracket should be the one up for the wild card. We saw Kerry Colby come back last season and she hadn't really done that well in the competition to get back. So at least if it was Morgan or whoever, you know, was 3rd place in the next 2 brackets, then at least, you know, they've worked hard for their space. It just felt like after episode 1, Lucky, Mystique and Morphine were almost out of the running. I just felt like there was no chance for Morphine, who I was kind of rooting for, to succeed and get to the top of the brackets, because there was only 2 spots, and once you're kind of not even in 3rd place, you're not in the running anymore. The whole bracket felt very uncompetitive, and it was because of things like this. So far this season, I'm just enjoying watching it. It's not going to go down in history for me. I'm enjoying seeing the queens in the workroom. I'm enjoying the banter. The challenges have been a bit meh. The runways have been good though. I'm happy for Dawn and Akira, of course. I'm just sad for Morgan and Morphine, who I feel like weren't given like a chance to succeed. I'm gonna be back next week with a video that is not to do with this season of Drag Race, but at the end of the pink bracket I will be back to review it, and it looks like it's gonna be at least a bit more interesting. We've got Silky, Vivacious, there's a bit of drama there. I thought it was really weird that Crystal, Method and someone else, Silky, they were not really included in the preview for the next episode. Does that mean that they're, you know, the main characters? Does that mean that they're not really giving? They were my picks to go through the next bracket, so I think that this is production being like, oh, we don't want to show off our star players just yet. You tell me in the comments, what did you think of the orange bracket? Do you share opinions with me? Are you completely against what I'm saying? I want to hear it all. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see you next week for a new video. Lots of love. Bye!
BLU. Baby, join the queue.